All right, welcome everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Real Ideal Gear live stream. We have second time Paul Whaley
Hello, everybody.
back for more. Nice to have you, Paul. Nice to see
Sweet.
you again.
Thanks for having me on, Tim.
So let's just kind of update everybody a little bit about what's going on with you, your channel, anything you want to talk about, just kind of as like what's going on with Paul.
Sure. So, last month we spoke about microband watches and IFAC stuff. This month we're doing solar-powered watches and then hydration. For me, living in Utah, in the last month we've had much better weather, so I'm a little bit more tan. The farmer's tan is starting to kind of come on at this point
Yeah.
now. Yeah, the farmer's tan is there. So with this, I've been spending a lot of time outside, which has given me more time to test out gear and things of that nature. As such, for our website, I've done more reviews and outdoorsy related things because the weather's been nicer.
Yep.
And I've been doing a lot more outdoor photography. Normally I'm sticking to a light box or sticking to outcast weather days. But yeah, I've been spending a lot of time outside, which has been a great thing. Again, testing out stuff that we're talking about today. And then I'll link it down below, or I guess it's linked on my account, and I'll post in the chat after we've done this. I started the Watch Crunch account. So I wanted to have a place that would make sense to upload photos that wouldn't necessarily be for our website to be an article, but would make sense as like a daily upload type of thing. So I'll link those details down below because it's fun to get the interaction over there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see who out there is on Watch Crunch because I joined in December, and it's an interesting thing. I started posting watch photos, and then it just dropped off, and then it's like I haven't been doing it. Now I'm working like crazy because the spring is here. My lawn maintenance company is up and running, and I've got the farmer's tan. Like I'm getting burned actually because in Montana it's like cold, rain, all that. And then all of a sudden 75 degrees and sunny. The grass is growing like crazy. Like it's growing like I would say an inch in 2-3 days, probably 3 days. It's like, wow.
Absolutely.
Can we just all calm down here a little bit?
Well, out here in the West, I mean, because we get all this rain and this snow, right? Yeah. And so the grass is just kind of absorbing a lot of that, I think, throughout the year. The dirt is there, and then that soil is so ready for it, and then that's why it's growing like crazy. So, but it keeps you in business during the summertime.
Oh man, this season here. Yeah, I am back. I'll be back. I'm back for sure. So, all right, let's go through everyday carry photos. I have mine. I didn't get any. I've been so busy. I didn't post anything on YouTube to kind of notify anybody. So I apologize to anybody who's watching after the fact, whatever. I didn't do my due diligence. So I will show what I've been carrying the past couple of weeks. I had a Shane from Relative Time was on. And so this is since then, these are the things that I've been wearing kind of off of my memory. Like I'm not exactly sure if I had other knives on there or not, but these are the watches. I went through quite a few watches in the last few weeks. And part of it is now I'm outdoors and I'm going through like Casio type watches when I'm mowing. I get home, shower, put on something different because I get tired of wearing Casio, honestly.
Sure.
Like it's the same plastic thing. So, but you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, the next watch for review is not a Casio. Yes. Do you know what that one is? Can I...
Is that for me or for our chat here?
Yeah, well, can you guess what that watch is in the upper right-hand corner?
I can see what it is.
What do you think it is?
It's a favorite watch of a former U.S. president who did not have sexual affairs with that lady.
Okay.
So
he didn't inhale.
He did not inhale. No, he certainly not, and he loved playing the saxophone. But yeah, that looks like a classic Timex Iron Man there.
It is. It's a classic 30. Yeah. So that's coming up in a review. And
nice.
I figured, I've done so many Casios. It's like Timex does make a good watch. I mean, they make one good watch. It's the Iron Man.
Sure.
No, they make a bunch of good watches.
Yeah.
But, so that's one I've been wearing it actually today. I switched. What do you got? Watch check. Let's go, Paul.
Okay, so I'm boring, and we were talking about this in the pre-show. Since I finished my testing process for the Islander Port Jeff that I discussed last month, I've been wearing my Omega Seamaster everywhere. I have it on a rubber FKM strap because it's more comfortable than a NATO right now with the temperature going up and down. I don't feel bad about getting sunscreen on this because I've been wearing it hiking. So it's getting SPF 30 banana boat on it.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a watch that I've wanted for a long time, and it's one of those things that it's something watch I own where when I'm not wearing it, I'm like, yeah, I kind of wish I was wearing it.
Yeah.
So the Omega Master that's 25 years old. So it might be older than some of our viewers here today.
Good.
What do you got on?
I have the favorite Casio of mine of all time, the PRW 6600, the triple sensor Pathfinder. I think this is probably the kitchen sink of Casio watches. Altimeter, barometer, compass, temperature, world time, timers, alarms, dual time, solar, atomic radio keeping or timekeeping, rubber, legitimately a rubber strap. That's really awesome. Metal buckle, mineral crystal, because it's not the acrylic, it's the next step up.
Sure.
But it has a really cool, this is something that's really just neat about this. I'll kind of put this up here so you can see it. But the crown is actually your adjustment tool for the watch.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of a different thing, because you get so used to using the buttons, when you're adjusting different modes on the watch. And this is, you use the crown, it goes back, you rotate it back and forth, and it works. It's pretty cool.
It's almost like using the knobs in your car. Like, it's more intuitive at a point to have a knob. It's not like 14 buttons, right?
Yeah, it's like a 97 Chevy. Get in there and I can keep turning that knob, and just the radio stations just keep going all the way to the end, and they stop. It's like, oh, all right. You're trying to find that one radio station that I get out here in Western Montana. So other stuff on the everyday carry. What do you see on there that you like? Do you see anything that catches your fancy?
Truth be told, I'd like to give you a shout out. You've been doing great videos, of course. Your dive watch video that went up over this weekend was very interesting. I was actually having to drive somewhere, and I listened to it almost like a podcast as I was driving somewhere. And it's interesting of trying to narrow down, if you had to get rid of a bunch, which ones would you want to keep? Right. Yeah. So seeing the dive watches in there is certainly interesting. And then, of course, you've got the chronograph that you uploaded the video on this morning in there, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Citizen, honestly. Citizen, people say that they're boring, but a lot of their kind of older designs, right, with the lume dials and that color, I think that those are really classic, right?
It's got a little bit of tropic strap in there, and it has a different look. I was wearing that last week when I was outdoors working. And I consider that kind of a beater dive watch for me.
Sure.
And then I was wearing the Borealis, the green and black Sea Storm there, the GMT. And that's my company colors are green and black. So that's kind of my adopted company watch.
Sure. So, I mean, it works. It works. Yeah. It's funny, we're talking solar watches today. One of the next ones I want to pick up, I joked in the pre-chat, it might be the Seiko Arnie. The 36.5 millimeter Citizen solar powered Eco Dive. Or Eco Drive, like little diver watch, is one that I'm looking at.
36.
It's I think it's like 36.5 or 37. It's fairly small and it's relatively new. They sell it as a ladies' watch, but it's unisex.
Sure.
And it's like I'm wearing a 41.5 millimeter watch. I wear 44s, 45s, and feel fine with it. But something about a watch that's so tiny, like I could be wearing it under anything. And it's a solar watch like that. So Citizen's a company that I owned a couple of them before I got into watches, if that makes sense. I was gifted them when I was in college. Now it's like I appreciate them more now that I don't own any.
You got to be careful wearing a 36 millimeter around a Citizen Arnie or a Seiko Arnie. I mean, that's the Arnold Schwarzenegger Seiko. I don't know if he could be seen next to a 36 millimeter watch.
I think that the old ones that he used to wear were smaller than the new ones. Actually, I think they were
bigger.
Well, his forearms were bigger 40 years ago.
So, real quick on the Arnie, like what's the attraction for you for the Arnie? For me, I'll be real quick with this.
Sure.
It's totally Arnold Schwarzenegger. I remember in the 90s when the movies came out and he was wearing the watch and they were in all the catalogs and stuff, because back then it was catalogs, not the internet. And I was looking, it's like, oh, I want to have an Arnie because I would look so huge with that on my wrist. And now, being 53 years old, wearing these guys, right? I'm looking at that digital display. I'm like, that digital display is not big enough. And I've been railing on Casio analog digital watches that don't have a big enough display.
It's hard to see a lot of the anti-digi displays.
Yeah. The Casio is one that's really, the AQS810 is another one. It's like, man, those are two that I've owned. Got rid of one and kept the other, but it's just tough. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Arnie watch, what is it about it?
So it's two things for me. I've never owned any Seikos.
Yeah.
I've owned stuff that was part of Epson Group and never Seiko itself.
Yeah.
And it's a solar watch. It's anti-digi. I can set it and not have to worry about it until I have to worry about the change in a month, right? Because I haven't looked into it deep enough to know if it's a perpetual calendar. Because the digital display might keep track of the month, so you don't have to worry about setting it with leap years or whatnot.
Yeah.
For me, I have that media attraction. I love Predator. I do enjoy some of the other films it was in, like but Raw Deal, even though it's not very good.
Yep.
But I still enjoy that film.
Commando.
Commando, of course. Commando,
Oh,
the
yeah.
classic. It's such a weird film. He's just feeding the deer and whatnot.
I eat green berets for breakfast. Oh man.
And I'm very hungry.
Oh wow. Wow.
But for me, it looks cool. It's such
right.
again. I feel like it's like a fourth grader. It's like, why do I want it? Well, it looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, do I want a G-Shock for $50 that does all the same things, or do I want to pay 6 times that for a Seiko? That might be worse. But I don't know. The fact I would, if I had to say that if I was to use it, I probably would use the analog display a lot more than the digital display. And the digital display would be like my nightlight. It's like, oh, I need to check the time at 11 o'clock. So I woke up and I'm like, what time is it? Digital display will light up, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of need to see it in person. I think it's part of it too. But I've heard a lot of positive things. Just can you pull off wearing it is the big thing. I've not got that concern.
I'm with you on I'd like to see it first because I really do need to see that analog display because after going through all this, I don't know if I could do that. So, Hey, Cryptic. All right. So let's finish this up. Anything else up here that flashlight wise? Oh, the flashlight, we have a Sulfur and we have an Ace Beam. And that right angle Ace Beam is fantastic. 1,000 lumens. It's a super bright little light. It's a double A size 14,500 flashlight. So very compact. So
that's awesome. And of course, always loving to see Swiss Army knives. Yeah, I used mine earlier today for something.
Yeah, the compact is and I've been carrying that whenever I'm not working because I have the Deluxe Tinker when I'm working because there's many pliers. It has good, couple of knives, stuff like that. So, but that one is such a compact, literally a compact Swiss Army knife in the pocket. Like you have all the things you really need. Yeah, you could probably maybe get a tool or two more if you really want it, but do you really use it that much? I mean, I'm always using the knives and the scissor. Those are obviously so.
Certainly.
I get a lot of questions about the yellow Max Ace Balance knife. That yellow knife. Yeah, it's a big fella. That is a full size folder right there.
Interesting.
But M390 steel. So
good steel. I used to own a couple of M390 knives back when I lived on the East Coast. Not great if you're in a very rust heavy environment because it likes to rust pretty quickly. Yeah. But it does great if you're somewhere more dry and maybe like Montana.
Western Montana.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And, admittedly, my EDC, I sent in photos for the last live stream with Shane, if anyone was watching. And this is what I've been wearing when I'm out jogging or hiking. All of the stuff I normally carry go right in here. Yeah. Right. So I keep like my weapon tool stuff on my person, but like cell phone keys, flashlight, medical supplies, all that's in here. So everything from the previous episode, I still am using. None of that's changed because the watch changes more than everything else does. Right. So that's all here in this little Osprey bag I've been carrying. So giving that a try. And I picked purple because it's weird to think that bright colors blend in better when you're out in public than, tactical colors do.
Right. Well, there's no solar watches in that everyday carry photo right there, but we're going to get into some solar. I'm just going to go through a few of these solar watches.
Sure.
I have a couple that are just a little different. There's a ton of solar watches out there. I just ordered a Seiko. You mentioned getting a Seiko. I just ordered a Seiko solar quartz, and I'm really looking forward to this because it's a neat looking watch. If you ask me, yeah. And the fact that it's solar. So let's go through do solar watches appeal to you? Is the solar quartz thing, is that appealing to you? Like, if I can get it, I'll get it.
Sure.
Nah, it's not that big a deal, or I don't care.
I'll put it this way. On a digital watch, not really. On an analog watch, it's more appealing. To give an example, I've got, I think this is the MDV 291. This is the replacement for the Mission Impossible watch. This is like a baby G-Shock, right? It's the module from the WS 1600, I want to say. I think you called it the Zebra.
Yeah.
It's the module from that, but it's in a bigger case. It has all the same functions, 5 time zones, all of that. It has the amber backlight, 10-year battery life. If this had solar power, would that make a big difference to me? Not really, right? I do have my only solar watch is a G-Shock, which normally, 2-year battery life up to whatever this would be. I like it more for analog because analog watches tend to burn through batteries quicker, and it's more of a pain to swap the battery in an analog watch. If you have an analog diver, that means replacing your gaskets and whatnot faster because you're more likely to tear them up when you're undoing a screw down case back than if you're just taking out the screws from, a G-Shock, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a thing that I feel the need to have, but it's certainly something that I won't turn down if I can get it in the exact same version of a watch, right? It's almost like, do you want cherries on your sundae? Yes or no? It's like, yeah, I'll probably take those cherries.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point, because when you have a watch that has a 10-year battery, and there's a bunch of Casios out there that have 10-year batteries,
Mm-hmm.
is the solar watch going to give you that much more life out of that battery, let alone the watch itself?
Yeah.
So in the cost kind of negligible, depends on the model. But I'll say this, let's go to the next slide here,
Sure.
because I think this is the next slide. Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave this to my youngest son a couple summers ago, but this watch is early 2000s. I want to say it's like 2004 or 5 when I bought this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a triple sensor Pathfinder watch. I forget the model. I think it's the 200T, because it's titanium. But this watch, I've never changed the battery on. It's 20 years, about 20 years old. And to me, that's like, wow, that's an
impressive.
amazing, that's an amazing duration that you can have, and reliable too, because you can see the battery indicator at the bottom down there below
Still
the
showing
5.
medium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it shows medium. And I know he doesn't wear it that much, because I asked him to take a photo of this. This is months ago. And so I'm sure it's probably in a darker part of the room. It hasn't seen a lot of light, but I never had any issues with like it getting below high, because I wore it 24/7, and I wore it to sleep. I didn't even take it off when I was showering. I was like, I need to wash the watch anyway. I'm going to wash. Just
Oh yeah, no,
in the shower. Why would I take it off?
I've been doing that lately. That's how I get the sunscreen out of these things. I slather up with the watch on.
The problem is there's so much soap stuff underneath
Mm-hmm.
that you have to clean that out every now and then. But
yeah,
I just think the durability and the duration that you get off of a good solar watch is incredible. It's another thing that you don't have to think about with the watch, and probably ever. And I'm sure there's other solar watches out there. We have to replace the battery, and the replacement battery, I think it's a different style battery too. You're not going to put a regular button battery in there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the batteries on a car. Like, it's expensive when you have to do it, relatively speaking.
But even I will say this: the more modern solar watches are more durable, and the batteries are better than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So. Anyway, that's one I just wanted to show that one for just durability. And you'll notice that the spacers on the bracelet broke off. Yeah, on both sides. So that thing slides around like crazy in there. But it's titanium, it's tough as nails, and that it's not a spring bar, it's actually a screw-in bar. Lug bar, whatever. What do you call that? It's a
it would
bracelet bar.
I would still call it a spring bar, but I would say maybe a screw attached spring bar. So it's a lot more durable. Yeah. It's funny. I've actually seen those. They're called Fat Boy spring bars. They're less prone to breakages, or what people like to put in the rubber strips.
That watch is a tank. Now, I also got that watch because I've had another iteration before that. I've had Pathfinders since I think it's the mid to early 90s. So I had another Pathfinder before that was about 8-9 years old before I swapped to this one. And then I just got this one. So here we are. That's the PRW 6600. So that's what I've been having. That's what I have here the last 4 years. I think it's now 3-4 years. So, all right. Citizen. So solar cell is built into the dial, and this is the Aqualand. This has the depth gauge. It has your deepest dive gauge. And then, of course, hour hand, minute hand, second hand. And then it has the battery indicator on the left. Now, when this watch gets wet, that 9 o'clock indicator goes up to ready. It tells you that it's reading it reads that you're in the water, which is really cool. So
that's nifty.
Yeah, it's an interesting watch. It is a beefy watch. I mean, that is a lot of steel.
Well, and you want it to be big when you're underwater, so you actually see it.
Yeah, and at the same time, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hands stacked up on top of each other. So the height off the wrist, I think it's like, I want to say it's 16.
Which for a course watch, that's really thick. But it is. This is the instance where you want to have a big watch, right? Yeah. Like this isn't something you're like, oh, I'm throwing on my dinner jacket. Let's go, go grab
Paul,
this.
This is my Arnold watch, man. This is
there we go.
When I want to have that badass attitude, this is the one that I wear.
Well, I dig it. I think it's cool looking.
Yeah. Another Citizen, Eco Drive, and I just saw this. I looked this up right when we were kind of doing the pre-show stuff. 1996 is when Eco Drive came out. Mm-hmm. So it's been out a long time.
Yeah.
Another great watch. And it's like, you look at this, it's like, where's the solar cell in there? You know, it blends in with the dial design and everything else. And there are other watches that you can kind of see that grid pattern when
Mhm.
you tilt the watch a certain direction. This one, I haven't noticed it on this one or on the Aqualand.
Yeah,
Neither
well,
one of these really show up when you look at it closely.
and truthfully, Citizen's better at hiding it than other ones. I know that was it recently that Orient did their diver chronograph where they actually put the solar panel into the subdials.
Uh-huh.
So it's 3 there. So it's more obvious, but it also looks really interesting. The
Yeah.
Nighthawks, I have a buddy who, it's funny, I was over at his house a week or two ago, and he's like, oh, my grandfather gave me this watch, and it was an old Nighthawk. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, he
Yeah.
had no idea that it was a watch that was cool. And it was one of the
Yeah.
EcoDrive ones, and the second we brought it out into the light beneath his living room, it kicked back on. And he was like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, I didn't realize. So it's, yeah, those are good. Those are
Oh,
cool.
and you know, I think something else that's pretty, I want to say it's universal, but it's probably not. And that is the low indicator charge
Yep.
where
All the
every
hands
2
sync up.
seconds.
Or
Yeah.
that too, yeah.
Yeah. The second hand will go every 2 seconds or every third second or something like that. You get some of that stuff that really helps you to see that, you know, things are needing some sunlight. And all you got to do is put it in the light, and it takes like
Yeah.
1 day in the sunlight, and it's back to
very
full. Like it's fully charged.
I will say it's funny. When I was buying my solar watch, which we'll touch on soon, I had never seen any photos of any of like people on Amazon or wherever where theirs were past medium, and I'm like, it must be hard to get to a full charge. And then I was half an hour into a day hike, and it was at high. So I'm like, oh, people just don't go outside very much.
Right. Right. It's the UV light is just golden on a
Hmm.
solar cell. It's not
Hmm.
just light itself. It's the kind of light that's actually golden. So
Yep.
there we go. Your
Yeah.
turn, buddy.
Yeah, see, that's mine's simple. I only own one right now. I've owned a grand total of 2 solar watches in the past. I had a Citizen EcoDrive field watch that I was given when I was in college, and I wore it working retail for years, and it got scratched up and dinged up, and I was a stupid 22-year-old, so I probably threw it away. But I've got a Casio 5610.
Hmm.
This replaced my regular G-Shock 5600. Not that I got rid of it, but that's just become the loaner watch. People need a watch, they borrow that one. But yeah, the solar powered. It's been fantastic. I've only had it, a handful of months right now. The reason why I got it was less because of solar and more because it has dual time. The dual time has been the reason why I got it. I wanted the G-Shock Square with dual time, but it having the multi-band 6 has been very nice. It makes it very easy to not have to worry about setting it. And then of course the solar power, going out hiking, camping, all of that. It's very, very easy to keep this thing working. I have no concerns there. So, and I'm not worried about it being any less durable than my other G-Shocks. Right. I don't think that you sacrifice anything durability wise by having a slightly more complicated solar cell. So this is not new technology, like we mentioned. It's nearly 30 years
Yeah.
old for the Citizen stuff, and
Yeah.
Casio's been doing tough solar for probably since around the same time, if I had to guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometime in the late 90s. So yeah, mine's there. I pulled it off for that photograph, and that's on the Rocky Mountains in the background there, part of the Wasatch chain
Oh,
here in
yeah.
Salt Lake City. So,
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now you have the 5600 and the 5610.
yes.
And I'm gonna just go off my memory on this. You correct me where I'm missing something, but the
Sure.
5600 has the flash alert.
So yes, that one has the flash alert for the alarm. Truth be
Yeah.
told, it's not a feature I use very often. That one, it's really simple. You have setting the time, no dual time. You have a perpetual calendar, which is nice. You don't have to worry about changing, from month to month. You have a stopwatch. You have a countdown watch. You have a single alarm.
Right.
You have a very good backlight. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it electroluminescent?
Yes, it is. It's a nice
Yeah,
green light.
yep.
it's not the more I say traditional, more the newer, just white. It's not going to come up gray here, but it's just white, which
Yeah.
is not bad. But it's like I kind of like that green glow. And then
So
something that one has that's very weird. Obviously, you can set the length of the light. You can actually turn off the backlight by pressing the button. So on the 5600, the backlight's the bottom left or bottom right button, almost
yeah,
like some of the small, because it's a watch from 1987
right.
is when they
right.
started making the 5600. You press the top pusher above it, it kills the light. So it sounds weird, but the 5600 is the one I use when I'm doing night vision stuff. So I have night
Okay.
vision goggles and I do night vision shooting and hiking. I can quickly, instead of just having to cover up the watch, I can just check the time real quick and then push the other button. So not that I'm too worried about it, but it's like digital watches
Yeah.
glow pretty hard under night vision goggles, and analog
Oh,
watches
yeah,
are
they
way
do.
worse because
Yeah.
that lume is visible when you can't see it, but your night vision goggles can see it.
Right. The question I have for you is
Mhm.
does the 5600 have the automatic light when you tilt your wrist? Does
No.
the light come on?
Nope.
Yeah. So this is where with the 5610, and I remember going through this over a year ago because I hadn't had a Casio Square. I don't think
Sure.
I'd ever had one. It's like, I'm gonna make sure I get the one that I want and I'm gonna wear the longest,
Mhm.
and not like get the 5600. And there's a few others out there, not to mention
Sure.
all the colors.
Yes.
But the 5610 has the automatic light, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, some have that. I don't have it turned on. Like I can move mine
I
around and
Yeah,
it's just
I have it turned on most of the time, although
sure.
sometimes I'll turn it off. But then it also has, let's see, it has solar, it has
Yep.
radio.
It has
Atomic
5
time
time zones, 5 dual time zones, which is nice.
Yep. What was there? There was something else. LED. It has the electroluminescent was
Mhm.
getting a lot of bad press
Yes.
for wearing out over time and faster than people liked. Now,
Mhm.
whether that was legitimate or not, I think that's kind of a relative thing.
Sure.
But I really think that LED light on the 5610 is as close to electroluminescent as I've
Yes.
seen on any LED that Casio makes. It's a
Mhm.
really, really good LED
It's
light.
impressive because you can tell that it's a single LED on one side,
Yeah,
but you don't get that F91 effect where it's not illuminating the entire thing.
yeah,
Right? A lot of people complain about the amber light on the more traditional, newer era of Casios. I don't mind it because you get 2 LEDs that are giving you the light. But yeah, on the 5610, the display is so small that like you hit it once and it's fine. I like how clear it is. Like it's very legible with that display.
mhm,
My inner 8-year-old's like the green one's cooler, but like this
yeah,
one's still plenty usable,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, I don't have the rotating light on because, truth be told, what I do, and I'm we were like this. My EDC bag is a Gray Ghost gear backpack that I use when I'm wearing my regular analog watch. This is literally riding on the carry handle strap of my backpack,
Mm,
and if I had the automatic light on, it would just be turning on all day.
yeah,
As it's
right,
riding on there, and then of course I wear this at nighttime is my big thing. I like to have a digital watch on at night so I can check the time when it's dark because I
right.
sleep poorly. I wake up 2 or 3 times a night, so
Yeah.
having that there is kind of like a little comfort blankie, my little whoopee to put that on and that I can go back to sleep.
Oh man. All right. So yeah, the square, and you had the square in yours, so I wasn't gonna, I have the 5610U
Sure.
as well. It's a great watch. For a guy with reading glasses, it's a little bit on the small side for
Mhm.
display, but that's a design from the mid 80s or early 80s. So
Yeah,
I'll give it a pass. Yeah.
and truth be told, I actually saw talking. We discussed Watch Crunch prior. I saw a poll where someone's like, "Do people like the 5600 or the 50 or the 6900 more?" 6900 is some more traditional round G Shock.
Mhm.
I might get one of the 6900 Tough Solars and test it in comparison to the 5610 because
Yeah.
I don't mind. I used to hate the gaudiness of these giant G Shocks. Now I'm kind of like, who cares? I don't
Yeah.
care. Let's just wear it.
Yeah. Where
It's
is
more
it?
legible and see how it is. Plus having the button up front can be a lot easier too.
I was wearing this working today.
Hmm.
Yeah. The AE,
What
what is this?
1500?
The 1500.
Yep, that one's great.
Fantastic legibility.
Hmm.
This was an eye opener. And I had a number of people. I think I shared this in the last live show, or the one before it. But this had a lot of people saying, "Hey Tim, you got to try this. You got to try this." It's like, okay, okay. And I looked at it, it's like, it looks like a smartwatch.
Sure.
It has such a legible display.
Hmm.
I thought, all right, I'm going to try it. So I get it. And I'm like, this is the best display on a Casio I have
Hmm.
ever seen.
And it's like $21.
And it's 21, $22.
Yeah.
And it has,
It has all the
alarm,
functions we want. I
timer,
think it's got dual
stopwatch,
time.
and it has the alarm that you can set, I think, to the date, which
Okay.
I think is a fantastic
Of
idea.
course.
Like if I have, let's say I have 5 alarms, and it's like I get this one appointment I got to make sure I can set that now. Now, people are like, well, you can use your phone for that. Right. I can use
Sure.
my phone
But
for that.
it
But
could be nice that
that's,
5 days of the week that you're working, you could set each alarm for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you don't have to
yeah,
worry about turning it off on the weekend and waking up your wife.
yeah. So, yeah, anyway, there are so many good solar watches out there.
Hmm.
We're going to get to that later. But I just think that when it comes to the solar side of things, if it's available, I'm getting it.
Sure.
If it's there, I want to. So that the Seiko that is on its way. It is a solar,
Hmm.
and to me, that is just like it's an added bonus to the watch itself. It's like I'm more willing to wear that one. I don't have to worry about the battery.
Yep.
Some of these other watches that have batteries, like the automatic light or using the light, and you
You
look
don't
at some
worry
of the
about it.
stuff, you have to kind of think about, and then plus when you get the watch, it's like, well, how long has this watch been
Yeah.
on the shelf?
You know.
With a
The,
solar watch, you don't have to worry about that stuff as much. And worry is relative. It's not really a
sure.
worry. It's
It's
just
not like
like
you're actively
a
thinking
pain in
about
the
it.
butt. It's a pain in the butt.
And the only company I've seen that has done some sort of way to prevent the battery from getting drained in transit is Timex. On some of the Timex field watches I've tested, they actually have like little plastic thing that keeps the crown open. Right. But obviously on a Casio that is all pushers, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
So I get that. And it's funny, with newer solar watches, I talked about the Momentum C Quartz, the Magnum PI watch last show. They're doing a new version of this that is the C Quartz Solar. So I might have to get rid of this.
I just saw
the solar one.
Yeah.
And they're doing the Rambo watch. They're doing the UDT diver watch from the 80s as a reissue.
That Momentum watch, that's one I'm actually interested in getting because it's solar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they announced it for the Eclipse, is how they announced that they were redoing it. Yep. Well, they said we were going to wait, and then the Eclipse is happening, and we're calling it the C Quartz Eclipse, so we may as well, announce it today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it's only like talking price, right? If you wanted to get a comparable G-Shock Square as the 5610, this one, I think it's like, if you go on Amazon right now, use your affiliate link. Go on Amazon right now. $91, I want to say, is what these are. To get a comparable G-Shock that was just the exact same thing minus solar, I think you're looking at $70, right? For Momentum, they're charging, I think, $35 more for the solar version of this. This is a 2-year battery life. I would certainly take the solar version over this. And they're even doing models that don't say, if I recall correctly, they're even doing models that don't say solar. So if you want to get the solar version but still have it look like the Magnum PI watch, it won't say solar, so you can still have the screen correct thing, right?
Cool.
So I think they're doing that, but the solar, I have some issues where I've seen some solar digital displays that are less, at certain angles are harder to read just because of how they hide the solar cell. But if given the option, I would take it over the other one.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious to see if anybody out there has the same issue. I'd never noticed that. You said with the Square that you noticed that it's less legible than the 5600.
It's funny in the photo I
don't have the comparison.
With that wrist shot there, I actually had to angle my arm in a certain way because I couldn't see the display properly through my camera lens for a little while. So I have it angled, not just because, it looks nice here, but because of like, if I had it a little bit too little, and it wasn't glare, it was entirely just that the display becomes almost translucent at certain angles. So, and this is something, we've seen it, like Casio did a retro reissue of one of their watches last year that had a pretty bad display issue. It's almost like that, where it's a little bit more gray at certain angles. Sure. And I've got 20/10 vision, so I don't think it's my eyes, but maybe it is. I don't know.
You got Eagle vision.
I try. That's why I've been a lifelong shooter.
Funny. I think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife and I go to Costco to get our eyes checked because for whatever reason our work had, I think, provided us eye checks or whatever. So we go to Costco to get our eyes checked. And she has vision, she's got vision issues. She's got, I think it's distance. So it's, what is she, nearsighted?
Mm-hmm.
Has a harder time seeing far. So I go behind the thing and it's like, all right, I'm going to read, I'm talking to the optometrist or whoever it is. I'm going to read every line that I can. You tell me where I end up because I want the best score possible. I don't want 2020 and then we stop. If I can go 2010 or whatever the next one is, I want to go until I can't go anymore. So I put my head up to the thing and I start rattling off letters and I think I read the whole thing. I don't remember if there's like, multiple line. Like, I think there's one extra line that you read and it's like 2010. So anyway, I get done. She says, you got 2010 vision. I said, what does that mean? You can see things really well. I said, like an eagle? And she says, yeah, I suppose like an eagle. So ever since then, I've been telling that to my wife. Of course, she's wearing glasses and stuff. So it's a little bit of a needle to her, just a little tiny one. But at the same time,
yeah. No, it's funny with I'm the only person in my extended family with good vision, and my girlfriend's blind as a bat, so she has to wear her glasses. So it's always funny that I joke that she makes some good decisions, but I can see what's happening.
We're here to help each other out. That's what it's all about, right?
It's reciprocal.
So back to the Casio and to the Square. That's one of the things, like the solar power stuff. I don't have the comparison. I'm really curious now about the 5600 compared to the 5610 because. If my son has one, I should talk to him about it because I think Noah has the 5600 and I need to get those two in front of me.
Sure.
Relatively speaking, I don't know the difference because I've only had the one, but very interesting. So do you have any solar watches on your list at all as far as, or just quartz watches that you would like, the quartz version, I'd rather get the solar version. Are there any watches out there that you'd want to upgrade into a solar?
It's funny because talking just quartz in general, there are quartz watches I would take over the automatic versions for some watches.
Yeah.
But talking quartz and solar, I'm looking at the Seiko Arnie because that's one that I think is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
They only
Right.
offer it as a solar watch, which is fine. And I wouldn't mind getting one of those 36.5 or 37 millimeter Citizen Eco Drive Pro Master Dive watches because I think just how tiny it would be. That would be something that I could throw on. Is always going to be the correct time. Even if it's I mean, oh no, the quartz is plus or minus 30 seconds a year.
Yeah.
My Omega is plus or minus 30 seconds a month. So,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Those two are ones I would take. Like I think Citizen makes great watches, but I probably wouldn't buy any of their Eco Drive dive watches unless they were the solar Eco Drive ones. If that
Okay.
makes sense, because I know that they do some non-solar quartz dive watches,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like if I'm going to buy a Citizen, I wouldn't buy an automatic just because unless they're putting those 9000 series automatics in there, I don't really have interest in the older ones. But yes, I say Citizen solar dive watches, the Seiko Arnie, and then I think I'm going to probably grab a 6900 G-Shock's Tough Solar to try
Yeah.
out to see if I like that more than the Square. I love the form factor of the Square, but I actually like a lot of how the more circular G-Shocks read is the big thing. They're a lot more legible, and even with good vision, it's like I don't have to worry about like looking at the watch for more than like a quarter or a half second to be able to tell
Right.
the time.
Right.
How about you?
I was just thinking like it's with Casios. When I go through the specs and look at a Casio and I see that it has a 2-year battery or 3-year battery, the 2-year battery is like, I think the calculator watch has like a 2-year battery because there's just so much stuff on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is the perfect opportunity to put a solar cell on this watch and you don't have to worry about it. So to me, anything that's less than 5 years is like, I wish it had a solar cell.
Sure.
Because to me, 5 years, I can handle that, down the
Mhm.
line, like, you buy a whatever $6-7 battery, put it in there, and you get another 5 years out of it. Well, I'm going to probably destroy it in the next 5 years. So
Yeah.
that to me is like, as far as upgrades go, the momentum that you just talked about, that's where analog watches, I've not really connected the dots there as much as I have with Casios. With the analog side,
it's more of a pain to replace the battery in that because you're having to bust out a case back knife or a tool to actually pry it off.
Yeah, it just seems like the watches that I'm interested in, first of all, they don't typically come in quartz. And then if they're not coming in quartz, they're not coming in solar. So there's just, I don't know, there's just kind of this gap, I guess, in the stuff that I'm looking at, or at least I'm interested in now. But I am very interested in quartz overall because it's such a low maintenance thing. Now, is it Mecha Quartz where they have the 4 ticks per second? I think it's Mecha Quartz.
Or I would say this is like pie in the sky. I'm reaching. Get me one of the Bulova precisionist movements in solar.
You got to get
so
one
it's
of those.
8 ticks per second, right? So it's even more smooth sweep. But get me that in solar and put it in a watch that's got more than 50 meters of water resistance. Right. I would very quickly buy one of those.
Right.
So
that's a great point. I have a precisionist movement. That is one of the coolest things.
So
and
cool.
I don't have the Grand Seiko, spring drive.
Of course.
That to me would be, if there was a luxury watch that I'm interested in, that's one of them because the movement is just so interesting.
And I'm going to get everyone hating me in the comments here. Here in Salt Lake, we don't have too many jewelry stores, but I happened to walk into a Watches of Switzerland boutique in one of the local malls when I was killing time on a Saturday when I was by myself. And it was Tag Heuer. It was Breitling, and then it was Grand Seiko. And the Grand Seiko watches were the least impressive things I looked at. I hate to sound like this. It's just that, this is going to sound harsh, but I want it to sound good. My favorite flavor of ice cream is vanilla. And I love vanilla ice cream because it never gets boring, right? Like if I said, hey, Tim, you want Rocky Road every day? You'd be like, okay, after 4 days, you're like, I'm tired of Rocky Road. Please give me something different. But vanilla ice cream's always pretty good. Grand Seiko's kind of vanilla. It didn't catch my eye, but like the spring drive was impressive. And,
I'm going to go out on a limb here. So you're like first grade. You're in your first grade class. Your teacher's sitting there. You're doing this, like artistic thing. And she says, Paul, what color paper would you like?
Beige.
I'd like white. Get me some white paper, please.
Construction paper.
Everybody else has got, all kinds of colors. Get me white because it's so interesting.
You're talking to a guy who owns 5 Glocks here, so
Yeah, well, that's true. Okay.
but I mean, Grand Seiko is.
Okay,
I will say the movements are incredibly impressive. The finishing is fantastic, but I didn't leave there going, I want to get a Grand Seiko. Now, obviously, that's my experience. I like weird stuff or very basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the spring drive movement is the coolest thing that they do, and it was cool. And plus, the lady handed me a titanium one and then the steel one, and they were both spring drives that had I think they call it whatever, the white cherry blossom, kind of like a guilloche dial almost, and it looks very cool. But it sounds terrible. The first thing I thought is like, this looks like every watch I've seen on AliExpress, which is not Grand Seiko's fault because they made the design and then AliExpress copied a lot of that stuff. But I'm like, it's just almost like it's almost like I don't want a Rolex Submariner because everybody's copied and homaged it, right?
Yeah.
And even if you have the original thing, it still feels weird.
So you wouldn't go to a Ferrari dealership and say, this kind of looks like a Corvette.
That's what I'm saying. It's not Ferrari's fault. It's not Grand Seiko's fault. It's just more so that it's not appealing to me.
Yeah,
right?
I hear you.
And not that I would buy a Tag or a Breitling, but I looked at those and I'm like, yeah, I'd probably leave here with an Aqua Racer before I left with a Grand Seiko watch. I'll put it that way.
I've heard the spring drive case is pretty thick. Like
I was surprised that it wasn't that thick. The watches, they were 100-meter water resistant dress watches, and they were about as thick as my Omega, and this is only about 11.5 millimeters thick.
Really? I thought
I was surprised.
Mid 12s.
I mean, maybe I'm just thinking differently, but I tried it on, titanium and everything, with it being titanium and it being. I mean, I'll put it this way: I'm not a big luxury watch guy. This Omega costs more than every other watch I own combined, right?
Yeah.
I bought a thin one. The newer ones of these are 14 to 15.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So comparing that to the Grand Seiko is still going to feel smaller. Like an Omega Aquaterra is still 2 or 3 millimeters thicker than a Grand Seiko is. Yeah. But the spring drive movement's really cool, though. I mean, that was the coolest thing. It's just I didn't care for the rest of the watch. Put it in the watch, I'd buy it. Maybe I'd buy it, but
this looks like an alley. Did you say that to the person at the?
I did not. The lady was very nice. The lady there was incredibly nice. And I say this, I've never even bought anything off AliExpress.
I wish I was in the store with you at that time. Just like, I think it is AliExpress. Just kind of egg them on.
Is this Grand Seiko? Is Seiko spelled right on here? But I think, isn't Grand Seiko one of the only companies doing a solar-powered luxury watch? Or am I misthinking there? Don't they do solar movements in some of their watches? I know they do very anti-magnetic resistant quartz watches.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I would love to see luxury solar quartz watches. I think that would be cool to see because a lot of it's moved right to, we got to do luxury mechanics, right, or automatic watches.
Here's the secret sauce for me when it comes to analog watches and solar. Get 4+ ticks per second. If you're borrowing the light as your energy source, you don't have to worry about low battery as much. And if it only has the duration in darkness of just say 3 months instead of 6, fine. But I would rather have the quartz movement tick 4 or 5, whatever times per second, with a solar quartz movement, pushing it. That's where the Mecha quartz, I think they're great because 4 beats per second on a quartz, it's not the same as the 1 tick per second you see as quartz. And I just think that's great. So put those two things together and I'm all in on the analog watches. I'd probably have a hard time buying mechanical because the accuracy is so much better with quartz.
And that's the thing, right? Is that it's almost like I always heard the comparison that getting a mechanical watch is like driving a manual transmission car, right?
Which is awesome.
It's awesome, but then it's more effort. If anything,
rush hour traffic, it's a lot of effort.
Yes, yeah. Especially, I had a friend who broke his left foot when we were teenagers, and driving his car home that night was pretty painful. Yeah, exactly.
I did the same thing. I was out sledding and we were sledding at a golf course and we weren't supposed to do this, but we were there anyway. And I'm busting out there. I go and I run and jump on the sled and I feel something pop in my foot. Get to the bottom of the hill. Great. Bottom of the hill. And I'm like, I can feel the grinding. I'm like, I got to go. I have to go to the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to walk up the hill to my truck, which was a manual transmission, drive from there to the hospital. And find out that I had broken. It's called a Jones fracture.
Oh gosh!
And I broke the outside bone of my foot, and Yeah.
Oh
Anyway,
goodness. Well,
but
if mechanical watches are manual transmission and quartz
hey,
is an automatic transmission, mecha quartz is kind of like paddle shifters behind the steering wheel.
it's
You
like the
know,
hybrid.
exactly. It's like we get to have a little
Yeah.
bit of that
Yeah.
that more mechanical feel, but it's also like it's still very accurate and it's still
Yeah.
doing all the quartzy things. I mean, both of us are not, automatic snobs, right?
Yeah.
And we both run into people who are automatic snobs, and for us, it's like, no, we understand that quartz is better. It's just automatic looks cool,
Yeah.
you
Well, they're
know.
just wound too tight, if you ask me.
But
Okay. All right. If anybody makes it to the end of this video after it's posted, they're going to have a good time because we're loosening up here.
exactly.
All right. So we've got 15 minutes of hydration,
Sure.
not literally, but hydration talk. So part of this live stream is like, we can't just talk about watches all the time. I'm going to get glassy eyed because I love watches. I'm totally fascinated by watches. I keep ordering them and, but being outdoors and hydration is really important. I think it's really important for everybody to get outdoors. And hydration is one of the ways that you make it more enjoyable because your body goes through a ton of water, especially on those cooler days, and you don't sweat as much and you don't realize it. You are evaporating a ton of water. So these kind of things, when it comes down to being outdoors, you've got to be mindful of that. And water is a simple thing. It's not a lightweight thing, though. 8 pounds per gallon is not light. So when you bring water with you, it has a lot of weight to it.
But it goes away as you're doing your hike or doing your camping trip.
Right. And if you have to go visit a tree, you could lose a lot more weight. But the point being, so a little background on my boosted sense of hydration. So I was on a mountaineering trip to climb Mount Rainier, and they were very adamant about hydration. And so we were basically, you kind of force yourself to drink as you're going up in elevation. You don't really feel like you're thirsty, but you are. And then all of a sudden you get the headache, the altitude headache, which sometimes can lead to altitude sickness and other, it's kind of the beginning of something that if you can manage it, you can have that go away. And that was a hydration issue. So that, and also the fear of, kidney issues, kidney stones, all these things, like you're supposed to flush stuff out of your body. And not that a hike is necessarily going to back you up like that, but at an extreme level, I just read about this, I think it was a year ago, extreme runners and extreme bicyclists, where these are guys and gals that are doing 100 plus miles on their bike, and they're running 50 plus miles on foot, or whatever the numbers are. They're just massive numbers. People who start out doing some of this stuff end up with kidney issues that is life-threatening because they're not taking in enough fluids, let alone electrolytes, to maintain the right blood pressure, the right blood chemistry. And but they push themselves, and all of a sudden they lose so much water so quickly, their body doesn't have time to tell them, hey, you're really thirsty. So that's the extreme side. Obviously, the hiking side doesn't happen that fast. You're going to feel thirsty before you get into
or properly dehydrated. Yeah.
So the skin test is one, like if your skin doesn't bounce back fast enough, that's a sign of dehydration. Dry mouth, dizziness, all those kinds of things. So just you got to watch that, especially in the heat. So what do you have? Let's go to, why don't you talk a little bit about, because is this part of your hydration?
Yeah. I'll hop right into it. So there's multiple layers to hydration when we're out hiking, camping, doing things outside, or even just everyday life, right? And I think this is one of the best things I've seen, at least where I live. And I grew up sailing, so spending a lot of time on boats in salt water, you get dehydrated quickly. So we always had bottles with us, and we were trying to be eco-friendly, but also we're cheap. It's cheaper to have a refillable, reusable bottle. I've been using Nalgene bottles a long, long time, whether it's in the canteen form that's more of a military 1 liter, or a traditional wide mouth Nalgene that's also 1 liter. I always have at least one of these with me, right? So the photo I took there was a simple day hike that was like maybe 5.5 miles round trip, but we were going up and down mountains. However, on that trip, I didn't pack any water purification because we were literally in an area where there was no water to get. So it was like whatever you packed is what you had, right? But the Nalgenes are great. Obviously, they're polymer, so if you drop them, they don't usually crack unless it's really cold or they're very old and gotten brittle. They tend to hold up really well to repeat uses. I've had this one for like 3 years now, and it's done pretty well. But yeah, simple. Just, so it's a liter of water. Generally, I try to drink about a gallon of water a day on days where I'm not doing anything that extraneous.
Right.
Right. But when you're out hiking, camping, doing outdoorsy stuff, doing cardio, you need more water and electrolytes. But this is a good way to carry that water with you.
Yeah.
Right. You can clip it onto a backpack. You can put it into a backpack. You can put it into a waist pack if you need to. I like the more canteen style with the thinner mouth because you can drink it while you're walking and not spill it over yourself. And then,
Yes.
which I do. I mean, I used to be the person I'm on a treadmill and it's just like, it's like I'm splashing myself because I didn't realize, that. The more traditional Nalgene's are good to go into a pocket or something. These you don't want to be moving when you're drinking out of because the mouth is wide enough that you will get it up your nose.
Yeah.
And that won't feel very good when you get your snot inside your water bottle. So I've also used metal bottles before, but I'm not as much of a fan of metal for 2 reasons. This sounds weird, but hear me out here, everybody. We like how cold water tastes sometimes. Like it's nice to have that cold feeling. Your gut is not cold. Your gut is about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. At least it should be. Cold water going in there will lead to cramps if you've been very much physically exerting yourself. I'm not a huge fan of metal canteens or metal bottles purely because if they are ones that are a vacuum bottle,
double
walled or a vacuum container, that keeps it colder, which is great if you want to sip on something. But if you're really thirsty and you're drinking, that will hit your hot gut and you will start cramping up. And you don't want to feel like you've got to poop when you're halfway through a hiking trip, and then you realize it's cramps and you have to deal with it until it goes away. Yeah. Right. So I like plastic better for my trips personally. Plus it weighs a little bit less when they're empty or even when they're full.
Yeah. For my short 2-day or less, I use the Pathfinder system. They have the I think it's probably stuck on there, but they have the cup that goes at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so this is actually a stove that you can you can put wood in there, and then you got the cup with the handle. Okay, and then obviously you have the canteen. So you get all 3 things together, and I put it all together just because it has it all. I mean, if I need any of this, it's all there. Purify, like kill bacteria, you can do that with that. And so
I don't have it here, but in my hiking bag, when I'm worried about having to purify water or just cook, I have a metal canteen cup that actually is the size of the Nalgene, so it just wraps around the bottom of the Nalgene there. And then I'm weird. I like to pack Espit tablets for starting a fire for that because I know they're always going to work, and it gets hot enough to boil water pretty quickly.
Yep. Yeah, and the thing about any like water purification, this is water purification, but make sure it's a single wall metal container. Do not use it will explode.
Yeah, it will explode.
More than likely,
It basically, if it says it's not dishwasher safe and it's metal, it's probably not good enough to boil water in either.
Right.
It's a general rule of thumb.
Very true. I got to say something else before we get to the water purification piece. So this is the technique I use for mowing. And I'll hold it like this so you guys can see it. I've got some water in here. I will put this in the freezer. So this is an Nalgene bottle. What is this, 2 liters?
Yeah, it's probably 2 liters.
Yeah, 2-liter bottle. So this is the twice the size of the one that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But I will take that and put this in the freezer on an angle like this, and then I'll fill the other half up. Usually I go half or just under half. It depends on the daily temperature. If it's not real hot out, I'll go less than half. If it's really hot out, I'll go half water. But you have to tip it on its side because if you put this in the freezer, you got to allow the ice room to expand. Even when it's half full, you're going to start pushing out the bottom of the container because all of that pressure that's in the bottom half of the water is going to expand out in all directions. Okay. So when you have it like this, it has actually some space to move. It's not like, don't put a full Nalgene in there and freeze it so solid. Well, you're not going to get any water out for like 4 or 5 hours.
Exactly. Exactly. Best case scenario, it's not usable.
You got to pace yourself. Like, how much ice do you want in here, and how much water do you want to drink? Because if it's in ice form, it's not going to be drinkable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's a cool. It really is a cool idea. Literally, that is not anything that I've invented, but it's just one of those things. Like, if you wanted, those sips of cool water, because I just think it morale wise, that the longer you can have cool water, the better I feel. Yeah. Now, if I'm guzzling water because I just, I did a big landscape job or a big hike or whatever it is, the ice water, I know exactly what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Like, when you do that, your gut, just
it's
squeezes.
Very quick. It's very quick that it hits you.
Yeah.
I've had people at my gym say, "Why are you always drinking room temperature water?" I'm like, "Well, because I've been lifting weights really hard, and if I start guzzling back some cold water, you're going to see me on the floor here."
Now, I can't drink hot water. My wife will just drink hot water.
Yeah, I
Like
can do it. I can do it.
you can drink just straight hot water. That's
We'll go into some of my background here. Like I said, I grew up sailing as a teenager. That's how actually my parents met. Was they were sailing at the same little sailing club. I worked sailboat rental as a youth out on the Rehoboth Bay in southern Delaware. People can go look it up. And I spent every day from May until September outside 40 hours a week on hot boats, fiberglass boats that were white,
right.
reflecting heat back up. You had to very quickly learn to drink hot stuff because it wasn't going to stay cold for very long. The worst I had, so it's funny, we'll talk hydration watches and things that dehydrate you. Red Bull used to have part of the Volvo Cup in Delaware because we had a deep inland bay. So 16-year-old Paul drank a lot of very hot Red Bull while doing race committee as part of helping out these races. As part of that, I can't enjoy Red Bull. They were very hot, so they made me sick. And it makes you realize caffeine is a natural diuretic. So that's the thing that will dehydrate you. So make sure you stay hydrated when you're drinking caffeine.
Yeah, stay away from caffeine.
Yep.
Caffeine and alcohol.
Both of those will dehydrate you. Yep.
Yeah, so don't bring it on a hike. All right, let's talk water filtration.
Mm-hmm.
You have I have the Sawyer, like I saw the pictures, like he's got it. Like you're stealing my thunder, but I like it. I'm glad you are.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. Talk about your filtration system.
Sure. So real quick, the bag I'm using there is a Mystery Ranch bag that I use as my day hiking bag. It's like a 21 liter bag, so it's not very big, but it has an internal frame, which is very comfortable for doing hikes. It helps to keep the bag off you a little bit so you get good aeration. The reason why I mention that is because on bigger hikes, I'm bringing more stuff. This one here, I've got a life straw at the bottom. We've talked about them a little bit behind the scenes. Life straws kind of suck to use, but they barely weigh anything. So bringing it with you is not like a whole lot of liability. I weighed it before my last big overnight hike. It's like 2.7 ounces for that life straw. Yes, having to drink out of it next to a creek or something sucks, but that's like my insurance. That's like if I lose the first one, I have that one as a backup, right? The Sawyer that I have there is a lot easier. And the way it works is really simple. It's just that you fill up, the bag there with dirty water. You run it through the filter. You filter it into your clean reservoir. You don't want to use your clean reservoir to scoop up the dirty water. For those that are watching, don't do that. That's a quick way to contaminate your canteen, right? But the Sawyer Mini works really well as a single person thing. In other trips, I've used big Catadine bags that you actually fill up the bag, you hang it from like a tree or something, and then it drip feeds into a reservoir that you have as your clean reservoir, right? Mm-hmm. That's if you got 3 or 4 people because it's big enough that you'd want to have one person carry the bag, one person carry the filter stuff, right? But yeah, these work pretty well for viral things like microbes and whatnot. I haven't had to worry about metal in water. There are some companies who make filters that are made to filter out metal particulates like iron or something, if you're like an urban explorer or something. But since I live somewhere where there is no urban to explore, it's all mountains in the wilderness, I'm not packing those ones. Yeah. So I'm probably going to upgrade to something bigger because my girlfriend and I are going to start doing hikes and camps together. So having a filter that is basically ready for 2 to 3 people is better than mine that's good for 1 person. Right. So, but that entire package you see there, that's very tiny. That all fits in, like the Sawyer kit fits in that little mesh bag. And then the life straw is fairly long, but again, doesn't weigh anything. Altogether, that's maybe half a pound of kit there for water filtration. And
that syringe and that gray straw is for flushing out the filter, just so people know what that. You're not drinking through a syringe.
Yeah, you're not drinking through the syringe. Is that way, if you ever have a blockage, you can kind of, it doesn't push the blockage out, but it kind of helps to like reorganize the internal guts of the filter. Yeah. To help kind of push air through. Yeah. So but it's real simple. You can go to your Walmart right now or go on Amazon. You can use Tim's affiliate code and and buy one of those filters for $22, $23.
I have to start saying something about that because I forget about it. I
link it in the videos.
Yeah, I've got it in the video and it goes to my webpage and I update the webpage. It's like I want it as low maintenance as possible, kind of like a solar watch. But I want it as low maintenance as possible because I'm not hugely into it. But at the same time, it's like, well, if they're doing it, I might as well. Yeah, it doesn't cost the consumer anything. It just costs Amazon something. So.
Yeah. And I guess I've got the filters here. We got the filters here, but also we can boil water. That's why you've got your canteen cups from Dave over at Dave Canterbury over at the Pathfinder School. And then I have my canteen cup. I've boiled water that way. I prefer to use a filter because it's easier, right? Like it's almost like, you can carry matches if you're out camping and a flint and steel and a ferro rod. but a lighter is going to start a fire faster. The filter is easier than boiling and then filtering water with like a bag or a shirt or something, but you have alternate ways to boil it. I have carried iodine tabs in the past. Those taste really, really bad to put in your water. So I have them, but it's like I'm going to use the filter first unless I have to go to iodine.
Yeah.
So
it's iodine tablets remind me of being tased. Like I'll do it once, but I don't want to be tased twice.
And then I guess the real quick thing I'll say is the last one because I don't want to take up too much time. You can go to your local grocery store and buy the 10-pack of Gatorade electrolyte powder. That will make any filtered water that you drink taste a lot better. Out here in Utah, we've had filtered water that's been through rivers that were part of they were downstream from like a forest fire. So you drink this filtered water and it's filtered and clean and safe to drink, but it tastes like you're drinking campfire. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Tim. I like the smell of a campfire. I don't want to taste a campfire.
Right.
So, a little bit of Gatorade powder mixed in with your canteen makes that not taste nearly as bad.
Yeah. And for some well water, I'm just kind of bringing up different tastes of water. So when I was in eastern Minnesota and I went to my grandma's house, they had a hand pump for water. Mm-hmm. There was no running water. So we go out and pump the water. Had a lot of iron in it. You set that down and you'd see this orange stuff just at the bottom of these containers. And then in a couple other places I've lived, it's been sulfur. It smells kind of sulfury. So there's all kinds of things out there. Like when you get really clean, good tasting water, consider yourself blessed, really, because there's so many places where you just kind of get used to that. You get used to a little iron in your water, a little bit of sulfur smell or taste in your water. And that's just kind of how it is. But man, when you get good, clean well water, and the place that we're at right now has really good, clean well water. As a matter of fact, when I go into cities to drink water, townships to drink their city water, it's like, oh, I can taste, there's just something about the stuff that they do with the water, or whether it's, I don't know if it's the fluoride or whatever they do with the water.
I filter everything that I drink here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What you're seeing out of this Nalgene it was filtered through a high-end Brita filter. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I got kidney stones at 19 from drinking very iron-heavy water back in Delaware. So and it was a bunch of people I knew at the same age that had that happen. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, glad you could join us. Yeah. So I'm gonna put my camera off for just a second because I've got a flashlight review coming up.
Want to hide it?
It's cool. No, I'm gonna bring it out.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be right. I'll be right back.
Okay. I can't see chat right now. Let me crack open the chat here. Sweet. Yeah, Chris, welcome to chat. I see we've got Orion here in Cryptic. Awesome to see everyone here. But yeah, we've been trying to copy or cover topics here that are a little bit more unique. So the water filtration, water carriage, and various ways of doing that was one that is very important, but also very, very basic. And I'm looking forward to this flashlight.
All right. So we're gonna go over a little bit here, which is fine. I'm in charge. Like we can go.
It's your show. It's on your channel.
A 24-hour special and see what happens. See what YouTube says. No. So this is on Amazon. You can get this flashlight. Okay, it's called the Rovivon Angel Eyes.
Here, pull down the presentation so we can see it bigger.
Where's that?
Pull down the presentation so we can see it bigger in your camera.
Hey, there we go. There we go. Okay. So there it is. All right. So this one has the side lights.
Okay.
The side light is UVC, not UVA. UVA is the eyesight. Purple. UVC, I think, is purple, isn't it?
Okay. Is it? Well, I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure UVA is the one that you don't have to worry about hardly at all.
Sure.
And if I've got this backwards, it's backwards. So
sure.
I'm pretty sure it's UVC. Anyway, so this is the purple one, not the blue.
Okay.
So this is the one that will burn your skin, burn your retinas, that kind of thing. So this is the one you don't look at like an eclipse. But But this is a bacteria killer. Like you can put this next to a bottle and you can kill the bacteria inside of water. So it's not filtration. It's sort of purification from the sense that you're killing the bacteria inside the water. But it's 2 for 1. Now I've seen you can get some bottles that will have the UV light on the cap. When you put it down and you turn it on and it will kill the bacteria that way. And I don't know how long it takes. I think it's like 5 or 10 minutes or something like that. Whatever it is, I don't know. But this one, you get a flashlight with it. So to me, I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. So you can get the flashlight, flash it around, and then as backup, because I haven't tried this yet. I'm going to try it as backup for purification, or at least killing the bacteria. You're not getting rid of sediment. You're not getting rid of the bad taste or the stuff that your activated carbon is going to do. But you're gonna make the Giardia shrivel up.
Yep.
So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, get a 2 for 1 deal. Throw this in the backpack as kind of a backup light, backup.
Sure. Now, is that rechargeable or is it?
Yeah, this is rechargeable. Built-in battery.
So it's a built-in battery. Okay, that's why I asked, because I'm weird where I like to have batteries I can yank out of something if I'm taking it with me, so I can quickly toss in fresh ones.
Yeah. So this cover goes on there as a protection. So in case this turns on and you're looking at it while you're doing something, you're not going to hurt yourself with this.
Or you're not eroding the fibers in the fabric of your backpack or something.
Oh man, have you ever had snow blindness?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it's there's a reason. It's funny whenever I go shooting. You know, obviously I always have protective glasses on, but I've got friends that say, "Why are you wearing sunglasses when it's the middle of a snowstorm?" I'm like, snow blindness sucks. That's why I've got my Dale Earnhardt glasses that I wear when I'm out doing stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stuff you got to be very cautious about, because off the snow it's even worse. But anyway, I thought that was kind of cool.
Sure.
I'm going to come out with a review on this one. And
cool.
All my flashlight reviews are pretty short because there's not a lot of stuff about a flashlight.
Yeah. So, no, I've run into that too. I've only done a handful of website flashlight reviews, and truth be told, I've been EDCing the same flashlight for 6 years now. So, it's one of those things. One last thing on the water purification and filtration. I didn't touch on it, but it's cool. I have a buddy who swears by it, and he spends a lot more time outside than I do. He has one of the nice, Chris. I'm glad to see that you're getting those life straws. They're so cheap, you may as well have them for the day packs. A couple of brands make filters for your water bottle. That the way it works is you've got like your big metal water bottle, so you could boil with it, but they segment it where it's like 3/4 of it is drinking water, and then the top 1/4 of it is a filter in an area for you to put dirty water into. So it actually filters it into the bottle. So you don't have to worry about. So it's not like you take your bottle and scoop it through, because then you're getting all the nasty stuff on like the lip and whatnot. But you could get water into it. And I've got a buddy that for our last trip he did that, and he didn't have the runs after 2 days after our camping trip ended. Right? Didn't have Giardia runs.
There's only one way to find out if your filter's working.
Exactly. And in that topic, it's funny. Les Stroud, the TV Survivor man. Do you know like the legit guy, one of the legit guys? He's mentioned in the past that obviously you want to try to have all the tools to filter water and do all of that. But if your biggest concern is Giardia and you're going to get saved within 1 or 2 days, just drink the damn water, right? Like you can deal with having that when you're back in civilization. You can go to the doctor. But if it's between dying of dehydration and drinking some questionable water, just drink the questionable water if you have to. That being said, pre-pack before you go out. That's a very easy thing to do.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to have something with you. Like eat the life straw. Like
so easy.
Yeah, and then you don't have to deal with medication, doctor stuff, whatever, hospital possibly. All that stuff is back burner. Like you don't have to worry about it. So
exactly,
it's the ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. That whole idea. So
but these life straws. I mean, I've used them before, and again, they're not, Chris. Just for your sake, they are not fun to use. Right? Imagine drinking out of the crappiest fast food straw you've ever had. It's kind of how it is. But they don't weigh anything. They aren't very expensive. You can hang it around your neck if you want to have it on your person. They're very cheap insurance to have. So and they work well.
I tend to bring a bigger bottle. Now, up to a point. Oh, also something about hydration when it comes to hiking. Know your surroundings. Yes. Where does the water exist? Now, this time of year, it's super easy. Springtime runoff in the western part of the United States, you get all the snow melt and all that stuff. But come July in the western part of the United States, it all dries up. And there's not that many lakes and streams around here at that higher elevation because that's all runoff dependent. So know your water sources as you're going out. Like, are you going to have ample water sources or not, because you may end up bringing 2 of these with you for a 2-day hike, you know. And like you said, a gallon a day, you know,
It
keeps
goes quick.
keeps the urologist away.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and that's the thing. I know I did a hike. I didn't send in any photos of it, but last year we did the Highline Trail, which is out in the Wasatch Uintas National Forest, and that's that starts at like 10,000 feet. Right, so it's a little bit
yeah,
higher, and we ended up at about 11,200 when we finished to get to our campsite. We did have creeks that had shrunk, but we could still get in there and get water out of them. We actually ended up topping off our dirty bag to filter through out of the runoff from a waterfall. So we got at the top of the waterfall. We're just catching the water out of it, right,
yeah,
and use that. So I regret that I didn't send in the photos because that was the last time I really had to filter any sort of meaningful amount of water. But yeah, no, like we had looked at it GPS wise and gone, okay, we all had our Garmin's on our wrists and we were like, okay, here's a river we're crossing over that we know is running water, because you don't want to get stale water if you can avoid it, right?
yeah.
But yeah, knowing that too, and what I did for that trip, I had 2 Nalgene's. And then I got a 2-liter, just like smart water bottle, like a disposable one, that when I was done with it as my top off for these 2, I could squish it down, because we're not leaving any trash behind. Because if you do that, you're a dirtbag. Take your trash out with you, pack it out, and I could crunch it down, and it stays tiny in the backpack, right? So yeah, but yeah, like you said, knowing where the water is as important as actually packing the water filtration supplies.
Yeah. And another thing with the filters is to be conscious of where the sediment is, because if you start sucking up water, like this is an example. My stepsons were much younger, and I said, "Hey guys, go over there, that little running creek." And that running creek made me nervous because Western Montana cattle and all that stuff,
Sure.
whatever, and not just cattle, elk, deer, all that stuff. But anyway, so they go over there to fill up. And this is one of the Katadyn, pump version. And so the hose goes out there, and the hose has a large sediment filter on the outside, has a smaller one on the inside of that, and then it goes up into the carbon filter. Well, they stick that thing right in the sediment. And I'm not talking like sand. It was like
nasty mud at the bottom.
Like mud, pine needles, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They plugged it up in one fill. So, but here's, if you think about this, like, okay, so if you're doing multi-day trip, your filter just got plugged.
Yep.
And
hope you have a way to flush it out.
Oh boy. So these are all things that, just a little bit of planning and just be real sensitive, because water is one of the most important things you can have out there when it comes to just, typical day-to-day living is water.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the thing is that, be mindful of water, but also it's super important, more so than even like food is. But what's the thing that you can't just fabricate if you're out in the wilderness? You can't make tools, right? Yeah. Water is important, but if you don't have a water filter, you're not making one with twigs and berries and leaves. You can try, but it's not going to be very good, right?
Yeah.
That's why packing a filter, knowing how to use it, and again, something can happen if you go, okay, do it, and they do it, whoop, it goes right into the sediment layer, right?
So and those filters, they're like $60 filters.
Yeah.
Okay, so like we had the ability to get in and out. It was not a big. So the cost in my mind is like, man, that's like a $60 water filter, and that's the thing. It was, I think that was like within that year I had just bought that one because I had another one that had broke. Or something like that. I don't.
It hurts. So it hurts.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. It's like, but I got a new filter, totally fine. Back up and running. So
that's why I want to get one of the. It's almost like an IV drip where you have the dirty bag that you hang up on like a tree or something, and it has a tube that runs down. There's a filter somewhere in the middle of the tube, and all we did is we just put a cinch in the hose beneath the filter. Whenever someone needed water, just uncinch it and just put it in your bottle, and you've got fresh water that tastes like a bonfire. But again, you throw in a Gatorade lemon lime pack, and it tastes fine.
A lemon lime,
and you're getting your electrolytes in. You go catch a fish out there, a rainbow trout at the little lake that we next to where we got the water from.
Right.
Right. On your collapsing fishing rod.
Yeah. I don't know. The water thing is like when it comes to being outdoors, just doing the light stuff. Like, I don't know. The more I've done it, and you get to some of those more intense trips and stuff like that, water is like in the forefront.
It's always in the brain.
Clothing, food, water, shelter, first aid. Like they're all just kind of in that top tier category. So,
and then it's one of those things that the second you have to use any of those things, that's when you're like, I wish I had more of it, right?
Yeah.
I've never been on a trip where I'm like, I wish I packed more food, because I always know that I should eat more than I think I should, because
Yeah.
you need to get more calories in. Like an actual hiking or camping trip that's strenuous is not the time to go, I'm going to go on a calorie deficit today. That's when you want to have more calories, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's not when you're saying, oh, I'm going to have less water today. You want more water. But it's like when you have to bust out the boo-boo kit and use something, you're like, I wish I packed more, triple antibiotic ointment or whatever it might be. So that's not what the time you want to find out that all your Band-Aids didn't work.
Yeah. Oh man. You said, I'm going to say this is back to that extreme running, extreme biking. And these are guys, and this actually was a guy who was running, I think it was the Continental Divide. And whether I don't know if it's in New Mexico, it goes all the way up through Colorado, Montana, but he's doing this ultra run, and he goes to the store to look for calories, and he's drinking vegetable oil and peanut butter.
Yep.
And I'm just like, the same thing when it comes to water. Like, you do the things you have to do. It may not taste the best or whatever, but it's calories. It gets you the fuel.
It's
the
calories.
The water may not taste the best, but it's water.
It's water.
You need the water.
When I was sunburned and tired after doing a fairly heavy hike last year, I was okay with my water tasting kind of crappy as long as it wasn't going to give me the runs in 2 days, Yeah. So it's funny because I've watched a couple of YouTube people who do stuff of like the Pacific Crest Trail, from Southern California all the way up to Canada. And they look at like what's the most calorie dense stuff you can get. And if you can tolerate it, olive oil is one of the most calorie dense things you can get. However, I don't know if I'd want to drink 16 ounces of olive oil over a day. That sounds like a great way to feel miserable at the night.
And peanut butter, olive oil and peanut butter.
One of those things will clog you up.
Well, I don't know about does peanut butter clog you up?
It doesn't clog me up, but it's one that if depending on the type of peanut butter you get, if it's got more like oils and like palm oils, I find that it tends to stick in the gut stronger, like not in a good way. If it's a more natural peanut butter, it tends to be more natural leaving the body too.
Okay, with that,
hey,
we're gonna wrap up this live stream. So all of you guys and gals that are out there watching, oh boy, we've covered some ground.
Sweet, and I guess we'll do one thing. I'm springing this on you at the last minute here. Let's both shout out one person that isn't either of us who has done something recently, content-wise, that we've enjoyed, just as a way to kind of expand our interest a little bit. So I can go first if you need some time to think on it.
Okay, I got one.
You do? Okay, well, here, I'll go first because it's real quick. I wanted the new watch roll. So I was doing some looking, and a YouTube channel that I subscribed to actually did a review of one because they saw it in a GQ video that Daniel Craig was on talking about his watches. So it was Bond's Apartment is the YouTube channel name. I'll tag him in the comments down below. Luke from there. Little $17 Amazon thing. It's fantastic for transporting watches. So shout out Bond's Apartment. Luke over there.
All right. So flashlights. I've been doing a lot of flashlight, just watching other stuff. I think it's Nightwalker Gear.
Interesting.
And the guy, I think he's out of Singapore or somewhere in that area of the world, but he does just Nightcore flashlights.
Interesting. Okay, and Nightcore is a big brand.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of cool stuff. And I didn't realize how much they have out there. Matter of fact, I just purchased. It's the light behind me, the accent light behind me, is a Nightcore camera light.
Interesting.
And you can control the temperature. It's a battery pack. You can charge things with it. You can charge the battery pack while you're charging something else and using the light. I mean, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So anyway, that channel has been doing quite a bit of just enlightening in my mind when it comes to Nightcore. I had the Nightcore flashlight when I was on patrol as a cop. So I was familiar with it, but I didn't really get into it. Yeah, I didn't really get into the brand. And now I was like, I'm doing some reviews. It's like, wow, Nightcore's got a lot of cool stuff. That's a great channel to learn about Nightcore.
And they make some of this is separate from their flashlights. They probably make the safest rechargeable battery chargers on the market. I've seen the least issues of them catching fire. I'll put it that way. Yeah. I've seen a lot of no-name ones, but the Nightcores, they tend to be pretty good about being safe.
They have good circuitry and they have good overcharge protection. I mean, that's what I use now, and that's so
and good quality control. I've not seen a whole lot of QC issues out of Nightcore over the years. Yeah.
So, Paul, thank you very much. Everybody who's watching, thank you for joining us. A little bit over, but I think it was pretty good.
I think it's good. We covered a whole lot tonight.
So we'll be back. We'll be back here again. I'll make sure I get my notification a little bit sooner for those of you with EDC and watch photos you want to share with everybody, and we can comment on that too. So, But anything else with you or your channel coming up in the future?
I mean, I've got more content coming up on our website. I've got I will be getting my published review of the Port Jeff up sometime next month, and
Okay.
then I've got an article that should be. I'm sure I'll get negative comments, but it's on the topic of: do you need a weapon-mounted light for concealed carry as a regular person? And it's with need being the big emphasis there. Do you need that?
Yeah.
And it's funny, you actually saw one of my videos on handheld light usage for
Yep.
a pistol, and that was something I filmed for an article that has been written for 3 weeks now. But it's not with how our website works. We scheduled it to a point where it goes in the queue. So end of the month is when that's going up there. So that should be a fun thing. Because I'm sure I'll be getting a lot of hate mail after people read it. But I'm used to that. I'm used to that.
Yeah, before I get into the weapon mounted light, I have to go and get my red dots on my pistols because of the eyesight.
No, yeah. Well, hey, they make
that's
it a lot
more
easier.
important than the weapon mounted light for sure. But I think let's see the channel here, flashlights. I'm probably going to back off a little bit on the watch reviews just because I don't know if I can keep that pace up. I did it for a year, and I think the pace it's wearing on me a little bit. So I may do a little less watches, add a few more other gear things in there. It'll still have at least one watch a week. So that's
yeah. And I think that
a variety of things I'm doing.
The Casio series, where you're going back to ones that you may have previously looked at, like the Icon series, I think that's a great idea because they're reviews, but they're not reviews. Right. I think that's very interesting. I think those will, again, we call it in the writing world evergreen content. It doesn't have to. It's not something that's like right now where people won't watch it in 2 weeks. It's something that's going to be good for as long as those watches are made.
And you say that, and the third installment, number 3 of 3, is the Square, which is, I think, the biggest icon. And I saved it for last, but the calculator watch and the F91 were the other two. But yeah, I enjoy those, and I'm having more fun with that. That's why it's like I'm kind of evolving a little bit away from just strict reviews into like, okay, so let's talk about this idea or this comparison or something like that. So that's what's coming up with my channel.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We will catch you guys probably in a month or less. Stay tuned, and we'll let you know when it happens. Thank you very much. See you later,
everybody.